So, 24 Slides is a small project that I made in 2021. The idea for this book actually came when I sort of inherited a box of old photographs from my father just before the pandemic. It had a lot of negatives, some old pictures. Some of the negatives weren't even very clear. It also had some of the tourism booklets that we had from that time. One of the things that I found in that box was a small tourism booklet. It almost is about 15, 16 pages of photographic slides. Somehow it reminded me of a propaganda notes that governments usually publish during wartime. And it sparked off this idea that how about I take a closer look and sort of juxtapose other family photographs that I have in my albums of that time. As we all know, Iraq did go through a lot of problems of its own over the last many years. You know, it saw many, many wars, one after the other. And to me, that was the contradiction of what I'm looking at through my family album and what I was seeing in the photographic slides is something that I wanted to play up a bit. So even the choice of images that you see are very consciously made, where the juxtaposition is very powerful. For example, when I'm talking about pockmarked walls, you know, we would collect these small
Mm,
bullet shells on the top of our terrace every morning. And because the
mm,
walls are very pockmarked, my mother would just cover them up with pretty blankets to, you know, take portraits. And to
mm,
me, it's like covering up the evidence of what was going on around us.
mm,
Um, and there's one image of from the archive where my mother was homeschooling me. She was teaching me,
mm,
and it reminds me of the lack of schools. There were no schools at that time. They were all bombed. The only English medium school in the town that we were living in Samawa, it was
mm,
bombed. So I also make a mention of my friend Fatima, who would be really pleased that she doesn't need to go to school because the school is bombed anyway. So I
right,
picked those memories and the images, which sort of bring out the contrast uh, of
mm,
of um, showing war without actually showing it. There's also reference towards the end of a dear friend of my father who
right,
disappeared overnight. So those all of those small little details to me sort of even highlight the idea of war in a very gentle way. I mean, that's the way that I think as a child I would have looked at that time.
right,
If you look at the form of the book itself, it's very simple. It sort of looks like it replicates the form of a tourism booklet or a trade publication in typically in the late 70s, early 80s.
mm,
And I wanted that nod to that form because it just has to be a simple, very quick, almost like a zine format, very easy to replicate. And I just published it right then without giving it a lot of time because it just felt urgent that we think of it or talk about war again in a different time.